roguelikes. We've got a Roomba with a nuke strapped to it, a katana-wielding gorilla, and somehow it escalates from there. Stick around to the end, there's probably something here that's gonna wreck your free time.
Enter the Gungeon launched back in 2016, and the fact that it's still sitting on a best of list in 2026 says more about its core loop than any hyperbole I could throw at you. It's a top-down bullet-hell dungeon crawler where the developers committed so hard to a single joke that literally everything in the universe is a firearm pun. You're fighting sentient bullet casings and squaring off against bosses named the Ammo Conda and the Gatling Gull. Even the shopkeeper is named Bello. The skill curve comes down to mastering the dodge roll, which gives you just enough invincibility frames to leap over a wall of projectile death. Panic roll though, and the game drops you directly onto a stray bullet. What keeps it addictive after a decade is the absurdity of the arsenal. You start with a pathetic service pistol, but 3 floors down you're firing a weapon that auto-reloads on every dodge, or a literal paper cutout of a gun that somehow shoots real bullets. The chaos feels deliberate rather than sloppy. It goes on sale for the price of a cheap coffee every other week. No excuses left.
Enter the Gungeon.
Pacific Drive is a deeply strange game that defies easy categorization, which you'll find either fascinating or annoying depending on what you want from a loop. You're trapped inside a supernatural exclusion zone in the Pacific Northwest, and your only shield is a beat-up 1970s station wagon. Radioactive anomalies tear panels off your vehicle, while the environment bends physics around your dashboard. The loop is methodical. Drive into the zone, scavenge scrap and copper wire, trigger an extraction gateway before a storm obliterates the map, then return to the garage to patch tires, swap doors, and craft components from your junk haul. What makes it work is the weird psychology of genuinely bonding with a hunk of digital metal. Forget the handbrake on an incline and your car rolls into a tree. Leave the headlights running and you return to a dead battery in a pitch-black forest. It's slower and denser than most entries here, but if you want a run that feels entirely unlike anything else on the market, it earns its reputation.
Number 2. Do not attempt to contain or interact with the phenomena.
Gunfire Reborn asks what would happen if someone took the loot-splosion energy of Borderlands and shoved it into a high-speed roguelike format. It works! The hero roster plays so differently from one another, they might as well belong to separate games. A dual-wielding dog who triggers explosive munitions, a magical cat who locks arenas down with energy orbs, a bird warrior built around high-risk melee leaps. The magic happens when elemental weapon affixes stack with the ascensions you pick at the end of each stage. Line your synergies up and you'll completely break the game's balance by the third act, which is exactly the power fantasy you want. I once assembled a build where every kill triggered a chain of lightning teleports that cleared the arena while I barely touched my keyboard. 4-player co-op holds all of it together smoothly. It doesn't look like a graphical powerhouse in screenshots, but it plays much better than it looks. Dead Cells has been out since 2018 and remains the gold standard for how an action platformer should feel to control. The movement has zero sluggishness. You're sliding under skeleton blades, parrying projectiles back into zombie faces, and stomping through floors with a response time that makes other side-scrollers feel like they're running through molasses. The loop rewards pure aggression. Take damage and you can hit enemies back quickly to recover health, which keeps you in the pocket instead of retreating. The DLC support has gotten so thorough that the volume of content is borderline overwhelming, including a full Return to Castlevania crossover with real Konami music and whip weapons baked into the progression tree. A standard run can look like anything, a flaming broadsword paired with a crossbow that reloads on kills while your passives deploy turrets painting the room in toxic sludge. When you mess up a dodge, every death feels entirely like your fault, which is exactly why you immediately hit restart. Noita is almost impossible to describe without sounding unhinged. Every single pixel on screen is individually simulated, so every drop of water, every grain of gunpowder, every pocket of gas behaves according to real physical rules. Fire a spark into a wooden ceiling and it catches fire, drops ash onto a pool of oil below, and triggers a chain explosion that collapses the cave on your head. You play a silent wizard whose tool is a deep wand editing system where you slot spells into arrays with stats like cast delay and mana capacity. You start shooting pathetic spark bolts. By floor 4, if your brain understands the modifier logic, you're firing a bouncing disc that turns enemies into sheep before they detonate into a chain lightning storm. The genius of Noita is that you're equally likely to erase yourself in the process. I once turned an entire lake into boiling acid, forgot about it, jumped in to cool off from a fire, and dissolved instantly.
The map hides cryptic puzzles and entire biomes the community is still untangling years after launch. Absolute freedom paired with absolute unyielding malice. This one got somewhat buried by a crowded launch window last year, which is a shame because it's one of the tightest platforming roguelites on Steam. Developed by Evil Empire, the team that spent years managing Dead Cell's post-launch content, it adapts Prince of Persia's historical momentum into a looping structure. The hook is the fluidity of the acrobatics. The prince wall runs, swings from poles, snaps a grappling hook, and transitions from a wall slide into a heavy dive attack on a cluster of Hun soldiers. Once you internalize the rhythm of the parkour, combat stops being a separate button masher and becomes a natural extension of your movement. The time loop is handled elegantly through the story of a broken magical amulet, and between deaths you return to an oasis camp to upgrade gear and piece together the invasion plot. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but it executes high-speed platforming with real craft. Children of Morta does something almost no other roguelike here attempts. It makes you genuinely care about the characters you're controlling. Instead of a blank slate space marine, you're guiding the Bergson family, generational guardians protecting a mythical mountain from a corrupting purple rot called the Blight. You start playing as John, the patriarch, fighting with shield and sword, and as runs go on, other family members join. Linda with a precision bow, Kevin with dual daggers, the grandmother providing magical support. The progression is clever. Each character levels up an individual skill tree, but they share a global family experience pool. Level Linda's archery to a certain tier, and the whole family inherits a permanent speed buff, which solves the usual roguelike problem of finding one good character and ignoring the rest. Between dives, gorgeous pixel art cutscenes show the family cooking dinner or arguing about safety, grounding the loop in something genuinely domestic. The combat leans closer to light Diablo than deep item stacking, so run-to-run variety is a bit lower than the genre giants, but as a story-forward dungeon crawler with real heart, it's worth your time. Ravenswatch comes from Pastech Games, the team behind Curse of the Dead Gods, and their top-down expertise shows immediately. Its biggest strength is a dark reimagining of folklore characters, Beowulf commanding a fiery dragon spirit, the Snow Queen leaving ice trails that control enemy positioning, Scarlet building a gauge until she transforms into a werewolf when night falls. Each hero is mechanically distinct enough that picking a new one means relearning your whole control rhythm. The loop runs on an overworld timer, a limited number of in-game days to explore before you're pulled into a multi-phased boss fight at the end of each chapter. That forces constant risk-reward calls between clearing a monster camp for a legendary upgrade or heading to a healing well because your health is critical. 4-player co-op is excellent, using the Snow Queen's freeze to set up Beowulf's heavy swings, for example. The environments repeat a bit in the back half, but for cooperative tactical depth and hero design, it's one of the most underrated multiplayer picks out there.
Follow us along the journey of making the next roguelite gem.
UnderMine 2 is in early access, but already feels remarkably solid. The premise mirrors the original. You're an endless line of disposable peasants kicked down a haunted mine shaft by an opportunistic wizard, collecting gold and relics, hoping your items compound into an overpowered build before a boss turns you to paste. Die, and your gold passes to the next peasant for permanent town upgrades. The sequel improves on the original with dedicated character classes instead of everyone swinging the same pickaxe, plus a branching path layout where your choices after a floor dictate the final boss encounter. The new Arcana system grants active abilities on top of your passive item stacks, giving you real buttons to press when cornered by exploding slimes. Local and online co-op are fully integrated. Item pool diversity still needs tuning, which is fair for early access, but the foundation is polished and it's tracking to surpass the original easily. I'll be upfront. Cursed Blood is deep in early access. The optimization needs work, and you'll hit frame drops when the screen fills with particles. It's still on this list because the core mechanical loop is raw and promising enough to demand attention. The pitch is unhinged. You play an undead samurai ape, and the melee combat is a fast, ultra-violent ballet of steel and fur. The game forces relentless aggression because healing works by consuming enemy blood sprays mid-combo. Backing off to play it safe is a death sentence. The only way out of a bad situation is diving deeper into the crowd. Simultaneous local and online co-op is a nice touch. Honest drawbacks, the camera is a bit restricted and likes hiding ranged enemies behind geometry, and early stages can feel like a mindless button masher before you unlock better combo strings. But the swordplay has real physical weight. Give it another 6 months, but keep it on your radar.
Blightstone is a dark fantasy tactics roguelike that rejects the standard action platformer blueprint entirely. Instead of one fast hero, you command a small squad escorting a fragile magical crystal through procedurally generated ruins, with class archetypes like frontline knights, rangers with wolf companions, pyromancers, and utility druids. The turn-based combat throws out grid lines completely. You move characters along continuous paths and adjust their facing manually, which changes how spatial positioning feels at every level. A careless inch of placement leaves your ranger exposed to a flank, or puts your knight inside your own mage's blast radius. Friendly fire is permanently on, turning every turn into a math problem. Shoot lightning into water to stun a cluster, or hurl debris at archers. Permadeath is unforgiving. Lose your druid in a messy fight and they're gone for good, forcing a tactical rewrite. The story is window dressing, but the slow, think 2 steps ahead depth is exactly what tactics fans want.
The Blightstone has risen.
If your brain needs constant dopamine and ultra-fast movement, Deadlink is a magnificent cyberpunk arena shooter. You pilot a combat shell dismantling Megacorp security forces into scrap, and the obvious comparison is Doom Eternal. Accurately so. The loop abhors static play. Stand still for a second and the AI deletes your health bar. You're constantly double jumping, air dashing, grappling, and managing resources mid-fight. The marking mechanic is smart. Hit enemies with your class ability, and killing them forces a drop of physical ammo and shields, so hyper-offensive play is your literal survival strategy. Between fights, you pick cybernetic implants that stack passive triggers. Switching weapons drops a proximity mine, your dash triggers a shockwave. Map variety is narrow and the corporate environments repeat, but the core shooting kinetics and upgrade synergies make this an easy recommendation for FPS fans. Synthetik 2 is in early access, and it's a shame more shooter fans aren't talking about it. What separates this top-down tactical shooter is a fanatical devotion to realistic weapon handling. When your gun clicks empty, you press one button to eject the spent magazine, then a second with precise active reload timing to chamber the next round. That friction turns every gunfight into a high-tension rhythm game, firing controlled bursts to avoid overheating, hit your reload windows flawlessly, and slice corners while killer robots flank you. Elite units, drone swarms, and bosses that include a full-sized military jet fighting you inside a warehouse keep breaking your rhythm. Class selection dictates weapon specializations, and the deep attachment loop means 2 runs with the same class feel totally different based on your loot. The Armor 2.0 system simulates angle-based ricochets and rear armor weak points, so positioning genuinely matters. The gap between a god-tier run and a starved one can feel luck-dependent, but for genuine tactical mastery, nothing else competes. Rotwood comes from Klei Entertainment, the studio behind Don't Starve and Mark of the Ninja, so the art direction is instantly spectacular. The hand-drawn animations are expressive and delightfully grotesque. It's a cooperative side-scrolling beat-em-up where you pick a stylized animal hunter and smash monsters twisted by a substance called the Rot. The combat animation quality is world-class. Every swing carries weight, hit stop is tuned perfectly, and boss fights have clear tells that reward players who learn the patterns. The honest appraisal is that the roguelite layer is thinner than you'd expect from a studio of Klei's caliber. Upgrade trees lean into linear percentage increases rather than build-changing pivots, so runs can start to feel similar after a long session. With a reliable crew of 3 friends, though, those flaws mostly evaporate. Solo, it's decent. With a crew, it shines. Risk of Rain 2 has been out since 2020, and it's deliberately high on this list as a reminder that it remains one of the best multiplayer experiences ever coded. Its genius is the global difficulty clock. Enemies scale in aggression, health, and numbers based on real-world time elapsed, not zones cleared, which creates a persistent anxiety to keep moving instead of stopping to search for a hidden chest. The game lives and dies by item stacking, with no inventory limits, and properties compound in ways that break reality. Deep into a good run, your character stops functioning like a person holding a gun and becomes a walking natural disaster, raining auto-targeting magma chunks and chain lightning just by sprinting forward. Grab the Survivors of the Void expansion alongside the base game. The full package goes on sale constantly and is an essential pillar of any library. Returnal is a premium third-person bullet hell roguelike that started as a flagship PlayStation exclusive before coming to PC. You play Celine, an astronaut crash-landed on a hostile, shifting world called Atropos, trapped in a temporal loop where the geography rearranges itself after every death. The developers took classic neon 2D bullet hell patterns and translated them into a fast 3D action space, air dashes, an active reload weapon system, projectile waves from multiple directions, and a suit malfunction system that attaches negative debuffs until you clear specific in-game challenges. The difficulty wall early on filters out a lot of casual players, but once the control scheme clicks, it's one of the most fluid action games ever made. The Parasite system is a great risk-reward layer. Alien organisms grant buffs paired with harsh negatives, like auto-healing at low health but taking damage every time you open a chest. The cosmic horror narrative, told through audio logs and recurring dream sequences in an out-of-place suburban house, earns its strangeness. Scale the early wall and it sticks with you forever.
Hades 2 has big shoes to fill over the first game. You play Melano, princess of the underworld and sister to original protagonist Zagreus, mounting an assault against Kronos, the titan of time, who's captured the House of Hades. The combat leans harder into crowd control, spatial zoning, and resource management than the original. Melano uses a mana bar to deploy cast sigils that root enemies, alongside magical staves, twin blades, and a heavy lunar axe. Two separate progression routes run in opposite directions: dive into the underworld or mount a surface assault on Mount Olympus, each with distinct bosses, materials, and biome mechanics. Supergiant's narrative delivery remains unmatched in the industry. Voice-acted dialogue adapts to every choice, and characters remember your loadout, your boons, and exactly how you died, making the underworld feel like a living soap opera. If the original felt structurally narrow after 50 hours, the split paths fix that completely. Windblown comes from Motion Twin, the studio that built Dead Cells, and that pedigree is recognizable the moment you touch the stick. It's a high-speed, isometric action roguelike where movement feels responsive from the first second, which a game demanding lightning reflexes requires. You control an anthropomorphic animal warrior rushing through floating sky islands to protect your village from an encroaching vortex. The hook is a high-speed weapon switching system mid-combo. You carry a primary and secondary simultaneously, each with its own strings and active skills, and juggling between them creates a satisfying rhythm built around the boon pickups in each room. Co-op supports up to 3 players with a smart revival mechanic. Sacrifice part of your own combo meter to instantly revive a downed teammate. That single choice stops friends from playing in isolated bubbles and forces everyone to track each other's health during boss phases. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but it executes its loop with a polish few modern action titles match. Sworn is a 1-to-4 player co-op action roguelike set in a grim reimagining of a fallen Camelot, where King Arthur has been corrupted by a dark cosmic force and the Knights of the Round Table are your bosses. The comparison to Hades is immediate and will follow this game everywhere. The isometric perspective, the room-to-room rewards, the boon-picking system are all explicitly familiar. But Sworn expands that template in ways that matter. 4 playable characters, each with 4 weapon variations, give it more mechanical variety from the start. The boon system goes broader too. Draft permanent combat pets that hold aggro, accept cursed blessings that spike damage at the cost of max health, or pick up precision modifiers rewarding exact hits. Where it really separates itself is the dedicated focus on multiplayer. The whole game is balanced from the ground up for cooperative squads. Solo, it's functional but restricted. With 2 or 3 friends running synergistic builds, it becomes something much more interesting. It's the answer for anyone who wished Hades had real co-op built in. If you want the peak of modern first-person shooter design wrapped in a roguelike loop, Roboquest is a masterclass. The whole game is engineered around one philosophy: stop moving for even a fraction of a second and you die. The Doom influence is unsubtle, and the developers never hide it. Breakneck speed, no traditional cover, and immense bullet pressure that rewards pure aggression. You pick a robotic class, from a stealthy ninja with an energy sword to a heavy rocketeer who controls crowds with explosive ordnance, and sprint through bright, cel-shaded environments. You collect a huge arsenal of firearms that stack with passive upgrades into absurd combinations. The map design has a light Metroidvania layer, hidden paths, locked rooms, and puzzle gates you unlock run by run as you find special keys, giving the whole thing a real sense of discovery alongside skill growth. The weapons feel punchy, the upgrade perks keep surprising you on deep runs, and seamless 2-player co-op lets you share the chaos without the engine buckling. The one honest caveat is the environments get visually monotonous after 40 hours of industrial hallways and desert canyons, but the moment-to-moment shooting and movement are tight enough to carry the whole game. There you have it, 20 roguelikes, enough for an entire year of endless loop runs. I hope. If you're interested to try out some of these games, I've included the links on the pinned comment. While you're there, maybe let me know what did I missed on the comments section. See you in the next one. Like and sub.